Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today we're tackling President Trump's executive order on a strategic Bitcoin reserve and a U.S. digital asset stockpile.
Those sound pretty futuristic.
They really do.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking at this White House fact sheet from March 6th, 2025.
Okay.
We're going to break down what these reserves are, why they're being created now, and what it could all mean for, the future of cryptocurrency.
Well, I think what really stands out to me right away is just the historical significance
Of-
of a government formally recognizing Bitcoin as a reserve asset.
Right.
It's a major step.
For sure. So let's jump right in.
Okay.
The Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. The fact sheet defines this as a reserve of Bitcoin obtained through criminal and civil asset forfeiture proceedings.
So Bitcoin seized from illegal activities
Right.
held by the Treasury Department.
Exactly. And they're calling it a reserve asset.
Right.
What does that even mean?
Well, it's interesting because reserve assets are typically things like gold or other commodities that governments hold to stabilize their currencies.
Yeah.
The fact that they're including Bitcoin in this category says a lot about how they view its potential.
It's like they're saying Bitcoin is the new gold, which, people refer to it as digital gold.
Right.
So will there be like a digital Fort Knox for all this Bitcoin?
No, not exactly. Remember, Bitcoin is digital.
Oh, right.
So we're talking about highly secure digital wallets rather than physical vaults.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And the fact sheet specifically states that the government won't be spending taxpayer dollars to acquire Bitcoin for this reserve.
Okay.
So how will they get more?
Well, that's a great question.
Yeah.
The Treasury and Commerce Secretaries are tasked with finding budget-neutral ways to increase the reserve, so we'll have to wait and see what strategies they come up with.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Moving on to the U.S. digital asset stockpile.
Okay.
The fact sheet says this will include other digital assets besides Bitcoin, also obtained through forfeiture.
That's right. But there is a key difference here.
Okay.
While the strategic Bitcoin reserve is off limits for selling, the Treasury Secretary has the authority to sell assets from this stockpile.
Interesting. So they're keeping their options open with this one?
Right.
The fact sheet doesn't specify why they might choose to sell, does it?
No, but one could speculate that it could be used to generate revenue or respond to market fluctuations.
Like if the price of a certain cryptocurrency goes up, they could sell some to capitalize on the gains.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to make sure things are managed properly, all government agencies are now required to report their digital asset holdings to the Treasury Secretary and the President's Working Group on Digital Asset Markets.
So they're trying to get a handle on all the crypto the government has accumulated from various seizures.
Right.
The fact sheet calls this a crypto management gap that they're aiming to close.
Right. It seems like they're acknowledging that the management of seized cryptocurrency hasn't been as strategic as it could be in the past.
And they have a point, according to the fact sheet. Premature sales of Bitcoin have already cost taxpayers over $17 billion.
Wow.
That's a pretty compelling reason to rethink their approach.
Absolutely. That statistic really highlights the volatility of the crypto market and the need for a more thoughtful long-term strategy.
Yeah, speaking of strategy, the fact sheet uses an interesting term to describe Bitcoin.
Okay.
Digital gold.
Right.
It seems like the government is really leaning into that analogy.
Yeah.
What do you make of it?
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
They seem to be drawing a parallel between Bitcoin's fixed supply of 21 million coins and the limited availability of gold, both of which contribute to their perceived value.
Right.
But there are, of course, key differences as well.
This feels like a good place to pause and let our listener absorb everything we've covered so far.
Yeah.
I mean, it's clear that the world of cryptocurrency is evolving rapidly, and this executive order is a sign that the U.S. government is taking a more active role.
And for those of you interested in exploring the world of digital assets for yourselves, you can always check out coinect.com.
That's our very own NFT marketplace.
That's right.
Where you can discover and collect all sorts of unique digital assets.
Exactly.
We'll be back in a moment to continue our deep dive into this executive order.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting to consider the implications of the government using this digital gold analogy.
Right. Like, are we heading towards a future where Bitcoin plays a more central role in the global financial system? Especially considering President Trump's campaign promise to make America the crypto capital of the world.
That's right. He's been pretty vocal about that goal.
He certainly has, and this executive order seems to be a step in that direction.
Absolutely. From his early days in office, he's been promoting U.S. leadership in digital assets.
Hmm.
He even appointed a crypto czar, if you
Oh,
recall.
yeah, I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah.
And then there was that first ever crypto summit at the White House. It seems like President Trump is really putting his money where his mouth is when it comes to cryptocurrency.
This executive order definitely reinforces that idea.
Yeah.
It sends a clear signal to the rest of the world that the U.S. is taking cryptocurrency seriously
Hmm.
and wants to be a leader in this space.
But what does becoming the crypto capital actually entail?
Mm-hmm.
What would that look like?
Well, the fact sheet doesn't lay out specific steps,
Okay.
but it does emphasize the importance of fostering innovation
Yeah.
and responsible development in the digital asset sector.
So it's more about creating a favorable environment for the crypto industry to thrive.
That seems to be the main focus.
Okay, so let's bring it back to our listener for a moment.
Okay.
What does it mean for you if the U.S. becomes the crypto capital? How might this impact your everyday life?
Well, it's hard to say for sure, but if the U.S. does become a global hub for cryptocurrency,
Yeah.
it could lead to greater adoption and acceptance of digital assets. This could mean more opportunities to use cryptocurrency in everyday transactions,
Interesting.
potentially even alongside the U.S. dollar.
It's like how we gradually transition from cash to credit cards and debit cards.
Right.
Maybe crypto will be the next step in that evolution.
It's certainly a possibility worth considering.
Okay, let's do a quick recap of what we've learned from the fact sheet so far.
Okay.
We've got the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, where the government will hold Bitcoin obtained through seizures as a reserve asset, similar to how they hold gold.
And then there's the U.S. Digital Asset Stockpile, which is a broader collection of seized digital assets
Right.
that the government can choose to sell if they see fit.
And both of these initiatives are part of a larger effort to improve the government's management of cryptocurrency.
Right.
They're acknowledging that there's been a crypto management gap in the past, and they're taking steps to close it.
Right. The fact that they lost $17 billion due to premature Bitcoin sales really drove that point home.
It's a pretty clear indication that they need a more strategic approach. And that seems to be exactly what this executive order is all about,
Yeah.
establishing a clear framework for managing and leveraging cryptocurrency.
And let's not forget the digital gold analogy used in the fact sheet.
Right.
It's a powerful way of framing Bitcoin and underscores the government's view of its potential.
It definitely raises a lot of interesting questions about the future of Bitcoin and its role in the global financial system.
It's a fascinating development and one that we'll be following closely.
For sure.
What are your thoughts on all of this so far?
I'm definitely intrigued by the idea of the U.S. becoming the crypto capital.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how this executive order plays out in practice.
I agree. And if you're curious about exploring the world of digital assets yourself, you can always check out coinex.com, our NFT marketplace.
Exactly. You can browse a wide variety of unique digital art and collectibles there.
Yeah.
It's a great way to get a taste of what the crypto world has to offer.
And who knows, you might even find your next favorite digital treasure.
Now, back to the executive order.
Okay.
There's one more section of the fact sheet that I want to dive into. It's the part where they outline the potential benefits of this new approach to managing cryptocurrency.
Yes. I think that's a crucial aspect to consider. What does the fact sheet say about the potential benefits of this executive order?
Well, the fact sheet argues that this new approach will help maximize the value of seized digital assets.
Okay.
They specifically mention that it'll allow them to more effectively time their sales, avoid the pitfalls of premature liquidation,
Right.
and ultimately generate more revenue for the government.
That makes sense. If they're able to hold on to these assets longer and sell them strategically,
Right.
they could potentially see much higher returns, especially given the volatility of the crypto market.
Exactly. And they also emphasize the importance of transparency and accountability in their management of cryptocurrency
Okay.
by requiring all agencies to report their digital asset holdings. They're creating a more centralized system that allows for better oversight and coordination.
Right. It seems like they're trying to avoid those past situations where different agencies were essentially operating in silos,
Yeah.
leading to inconsistent strategies and missed opportunities.
And remember, they're not just looking at the financial benefits here.
Right.
The fact sheet also highlights the potential for this executive order to enhance national security.
Oh, that's interesting. How so?
Well, they argue that by improving the government's understanding of the crypto ecosystem and developing better tools for tracking and tracing digital assets,
Okay.
they'll be better equipped to combat illicit activities like money laundering, terrorism financing,
Right.
cybercrime.
I see. It's like they're acknowledging that cryptocurrency can be used for both good and bad purposes,
Yeah.
and they're trying to put measures in place to mitigate the risks.
Exactly. It's all about finding that balance between fostering innovation
Mm.
and protecting national security.
Right.
And speaking of innovation, I think this executive order has the potential to make the U.S. a more attractive destination for crypto businesses and investors.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
If the U.S. demonstrates that it's taking a thoughtful and strategic approach to cryptocurrency regulation and management, it could attract more investment and talent to the sector.
Right. It could create a sort of ripple effect where a positive regulatory environment leads to more innovation,
Right.
which in turn leads to more economic growth.
It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out.
Yeah.
It's certainly a bold move by the Trump administration, and it has the potential to reshape the landscape of the crypto industry, both domestically and globally.
Well said. I think we've covered all the key points from the fact sheet.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
It's fascinating to witness how rapidly the world's perception of cryptocurrency is evolving.
Yeah.
What was once seen as a fringe technology is now being embraced by governments at the highest level. And that shift has the potential to reshape the financial landscape in ways we're only beginning to understand.
Absolutely. And I think this executive order is just the beginning.
Yeah.
We're likely to see even more significant developments in the months and years to come
For sure.
as governments around the world grapple with the implications of cryptocurrency.
I agree. It's definitely a space worth watching closely.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are interested in exploring the world of digital assets yourselves, I'd encourage you to check out Coinect.com.
Yes.
It's our very own NFT marketplace where you can discover and collect all sorts of unique digital art and collectibles.
It's a great way to dip your toes into the exciting world of cryptocurrency.
Exactly.
And that wraps up our deep dive into President Trump's executive order on cryptocurrency.
Well, thanks for joining us.
We hope you found it informative and engaging.
As always, we encourage you to continue exploring, learning, and asking questions.
Yes.
The world of cryptocurrency is constantly evolving, and there's always something new to discover.
This has been the deep dive. Until next time, stay curious.